A light knock at his door distracted Alex from the aimless notes he was scribbling. "Come in." "It's Maxwell, sir." "Ah, yes. What brings you here at this late hour?" Alex paused to look at the clock. Gods. Morning. "It's about the upcoming crusade, sir," Maxwell said, his voice tinged with worry. Alex narrowed his eyes at the young werebeast. The boy had been growing increasingly worried since the war had been declared to the public. Worse still, his hometown was likely to be the center of the coming conflict with the invaders. "Sure, take a seat," Alex replied, gesturing to his seat across from his desk. "It's just, well, my father, you see." Maxwell tried to start, but couldn't seem to find where to actually begin. "You're worried about your friends and family back home being on the front lines, aren't you?" Alex's voice was gentle, understanding. "Well, I wouldn't worry too much." "But sir, those blasted humans have amassed an imposing army," Maxwell protested, only for his face to drop, realizing who he was talking to. Alex only smirked. "Yes, we humans truly are blasted. Maxwell, this isn't the first crusade this place has dealt with. It won't even be the last. I may be a human, but this is my homeland, and I will keep it safe." "Then why can't we fight?" Maxwell asked. Thanks to Alex's teaching, he and his classmates were easily above the rest of the students, but they had been expressly banned from even stepping outside the city walls, outside an evacuation order. Alex just shook his head. "Because you are not ready for how humans fight." "Then how do they fight? Teach us." "Maxwell, combat for us isn't just about the fight." "What?" Maxwell asked, confused. His teacher liked to talk in riddles and odd ways, but this just didn't make sense. Alex, though, just let out a sigh. "Take the Titans, for instance. They are incredibly strong, or the dwarves and their sometimes ungodly durability." Maxwell nodded along. "Due to their nature, they are prone to more frontal attacks. They use their given nature to their advantage." "This much is obvious, sir," Maxwell grumbled at the non-answer he was getting from Alex. "Then the orcs and the werebeasts, how do they like to fight?" Maxwell thought about Alex's question for a moment. "With self-reliance and honor?" "Exactly. They will never back down from a fight and will press forward. What about the Ironwood Elves or the vampires? What traits do they have?" Maxwell paused in thought. The primary thing outside unique individuals was their heightened senses. "Their senses?" they answered unsurely. "Precisely. The Ironwoods and the vampire clans are unique in speed, but also their senses, making them exceptional in covert combat. Now, compared to these marvelous traits, what do humans?" He paused and gestured to himself. "What do we possess?" "Numbers?" "Nah. Numbers can be got anywhere. What we humans have is simple. We have performance." As if to accentuate his point, Alex put on a pose Maxwell had seen many times. His waiting for applause pose. "Performance?" Maxwell parroted incredulously. "You doubt me?" Alex replied, his demeanor changing. "Are you calling me a liar?" Maxwell retreated at the sudden shift in mood. "I would think very hard about what you intend to say next, young Maxwell." Maxwell began to retreat further, till his back bumped against the wall, as he suddenly activated a light circle to conjure a defensive field. "See?" Alex began, his demeanor shifting back to his usual relaxed attitude. "Now, why did you back up and start all the protection magic?" "You scared me." "Did I? My performance scared you? Did I convince you of a falsehood when I had no intention of ever harming you?" "You were pretending," Maxwell asked, only for Alex to nod. "To be fair, sir, I have seen what you can do. You are very scary when you want to be." "Very well, I will concede that point, but my reputation at large, what is it like?" Maxwell paused, as he tried to find a way to word unhinged maniac that shouldn't be allowed near children as politely as possible before settling on one word. Eccentric? What a polite way of putting it, Maxwell. I have cultivated a reputation as a bit of a crazy person, but I am anything but in an actual fight. But if my enemy goes in expecting one thing but encounters another, they will be found more on the back foot. That is how humans fight. They utilize a performance of sorts to convince their enemies incorrect information is, in fact, true. Alex explained, his words shrouded in intrigue. But that's just deception. Alex paused as he looked over his student. I can see I haven't convinced you. How about a history lesson? I'm not in the mood. I want answers. Alex tilted his head. Well, one can lead to the other. Very well, Maxwell replied in a huff. So, do you know of the human general domain? Maxwell nodded. The general was famous for his skill with ambushes and traps. He often led his army to certain death. Well, do you know about his battle against Fort Huron? No, sir. Simple little thing. General Domain only had a few thousand to raid against a fully stocked and reinforced fortress with a significant number of troops. Far more than he had. And he meant to take it? Yes, in a way. You see, the first day he was outside the fortress, he arrayed his men in perfect parade ground formation. He then invited the enemy out to attack him. No doubt a trap, Maxwell posited. Exactly what the fort commander believed. Domain was famous for his tricks and traps, so he could only assume seeing a force 1/5 his own must be bait. What did he do? Nothing. He had no reason to ride out, so the second day of the siege began, and Domain again arranged his troops in formation, and invited them to come out and attack. But the fort commander believed this was another attempt at baiting them outside. Did he attack them? No. He was cautious. He knew his enemy well, so he would not rise to the provocation. Then the third day came. Let me guess. He lined up his troops and invited them to attack? Exactly, Alex said with a nod. But this time he noticed something. It might have been his imagination. What did he see? There were fewer troops lined up, Alex replied with a smirk. Fewer troops? The bait was even more enticing than the previous 2 days. But where had the missing troops gone? Exactly what the commander wondered. The best his officers could come up with was that they had met up with the ambush force, wherever it was hidden. So what happened next? This continued, day after day for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Maxwell repeated, surprised. Some reports say it was only Domain and his honor guard by the end, though I suspect that was apocryphal. What happened after the 2 weeks? Domain vanished. You see, his goal was never to take the fort, and the troops he was displaying were very much his entire force. So it was a performance? A trick using his reputation? Exactly. You see, Maxwell, it is not enough to know the enemy. You must also know yourself. Domain knew the enemy would be cautious because they knew how he worked. His true goal was Port Stain. Maxwell barely contained the gasp of surprise. He now knew the battle that was being referenced, when the capital of his family's land was captured because the reinforcements never arrived. So he... Exactly. He had his forces spread out, eliminating every messenger sent to the fort asking for aid. That is the real reason why his forces dwindled. He delayed the help that was desperately needed, and all because he put on a show. So this is how humans fight? Exactly. We don't have the strength or durability of the titans and dwarves, the honor and technique of the werebeasts and orcs, nor the senses of the ironwoods and vampires. What we have instead is cunning. Cunning? Yes, we have to be clever to win. Where our strength fails us, our minds make up for it with crafty tricks and performances. Are there any other examples? Well, there is that general who just built a fort around the fort he was sieging, Alex replied, tapping his bearded chin.